I met Claire at a marketing conference 3 years ago. She was magnetic, the kind of woman who could light up a room just by walking into it. Her confidence was intoxicating, and when she showed interest in me, I felt like the luckiest man alive. We started dating, and for the first few months, everything felt perfect. She was attentive, funny, and we connected on a level I'd never experienced before. But then the games started. It began subtly. Claire would mention other men casually, a colleague who complimented her outfit, a guy at the gym who asked for her number, an ex who texted out of the blue. At first, I didn't think much of it. She was attractive. Of course, men noticed her. But the mentions became more frequent, more detailed, and always delivered with a particular glance in my direction, watching for my reaction. "You know Marcus from the finance department?" she'd say over dinner. "He invited me to this exclusive rooftop party next weekend. He's so persistent." She'd laugh, twirling her wine glass. "He even sent flowers to my office." I'd nod, trying to appear unfazed. "That's nice. Are you going?" "Maybe. I haven't decided yet." Her eyes would sparkle with something I couldn't quite name. "Would it bother you if I did?" The truth was, it did bother me. Not because I didn't trust her, but because I felt like I was constantly being tested. Every story about another man felt like a challenge. Prove you care enough, fight for me, show me you're worried about losing me. One evening, 6 months into our relationship, we were at her apartment when her phone buzzed repeatedly. She picked it up, smirked, and showed me the screen. "Look at this. David won't stop messaging me. He wants to take me to that new French restaurant downtown, the one with the 6-month waiting list." I looked at the messages. They were flirtatious, persistent. "Are you going to respond?" I asked quietly. She shrugged, a playful smile on her lips. "I don't know. Should I? He's pretty successful, drives a Porsche. And he's very attentive." She paused, watching me. "Don't you think it's flattering that men chase after me like this?" Something inside me shifted in that moment. I realized I was tired of the constant performance, tired of proving myself, tired of feeling like I was in competition with shadows. "Sure," I said evenly. "It's flattering." Her smile faltered slightly. This wasn't the reaction she wanted. "You're not bothered?" she pressed. I met her eyes. "Claire, if men are chasing after you, and you enjoy that attention, then maybe you should let them catch you." The silence that followed was heavy. Her face cycled through surprise, confusion, and then anger. "What's that supposed to mean?" she demanded. "It means I'm not interested in playing games," I said, standing up and gathering my jacket. "I want a partner, not a prize to be won over and over again. If you need constant validation from other men to feel valued, then we want different things." "Are you serious right now?" She stood too, her voice rising. "You're really going to be jealous and insecure about this?" "I'm not jealous," I said calmly, and I meant it. I felt something else entirely, clarity. "I'm just done competing. You deserve someone who enjoys the chase. I'm looking for someone who's happy being found." I walked out that night and she didn't stop me. I think part of her expected me to come crawling back, apologizing, ready to fight harder for her attention. But I didn't. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. I didn't know it then, but walking away from Claire was the best decision I'd ever make. Because 3 weeks later, I would meet Sarah, and she would show me what love looked like without the games. The weeks after my breakup with Claire were quieter than I expected. I thought I'd feel heartbroken, but instead, I felt relieved. I threw myself into work, reconnected with friends I'd neglected, and rediscovered hobbies I'd set aside. I started running in the mornings, joined a book club, and generally enjoyed my own company again. It was at that book club where I met Sarah. She arrived late to our discussion of East of Eden, apologizing profusely as she squeezed into the only empty chair, which happened to be next to mine. She was wearing a simple blue sweater and jeans, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, and she carried a worn paperback copy of the book, its pages marked with dozens of colorful tabs. Sorry, she whispered, slightly out of breath. "My shift at the hospital ran late. Did I miss the discussion about Kathy?" I shook my head and whispered back, "Just starting now." What struck me immediately about Sarah wasn't her appearance, though she was naturally pretty. It was her presence. She was fully engaged in the discussion, offering thoughtful insights about the novel's themes of good and evil, listening intently to others, and laughing genuinely at the moderator's jokes. There was no performance, no calculation. She was simply herself. After the meeting, as we were all filtering out, Sarah's book slipped from her bag, and several of her bookmarks scattered across the floor. I helped her gather them. "Thanks," she said, smiling warmly. "I'm Sarah, by the way. I don't think we've met before." "Daniel," I replied. "I've been coming for a few months. First time seeing you here." "Yeah, my schedule's unpredictable. I'm a nurse, so I make it when I can." She gestured to her color-coded tabs. "But I always do the reading. Books are my escape after long shifts." We ended up talking in the parking lot for 45 minutes. She told me about her work in the pediatric unit, the challenges and rewards of nursing, her love of historical fiction. I told her about my job in software development, my recent breakup, keeping it brief, and my attempt to read more classics. What amazed me was how easy it was. There were no games, no tests, no carefully calculated pauses. When I made her laugh, she laughed. Not a practiced, flirtatious giggle, but a genuine, full laugh. When I asked her questions, she answered honestly. When she asked about my life, I could tell she actually cared about the answer. "I should let you go," she said eventually, glancing at her watch. "Early shift tomorrow. But this was really nice, Daniel. Maybe I'll see you at the next meeting." "I'd like that," I said, and I meant it. Over the next month, Sarah and I kept running into each other, at the book club, at a local coffee shop where we both apparently liked to read on Saturday mornings, at a community charity event. Each time, our conversations grew longer and more comfortable. I found myself looking forward to seeing her, but not with the anxious anticipation I'd felt with Claire. This was something different, something peaceful. One Saturday at the coffee shop, I finally asked her to dinner. "I'd love that," she said simply. No coy games about checking her schedule or mentioning other plans. Our first date was at a small Italian restaurant. Sarah wore a simple green dress and told me stories about her patients, keeping them anonymous, that were funny and heartbreaking and human. She asked about my work, my family, my dreams. When I talked, she listened, really listened, asking follow-up questions that showed she'd been paying attention. At one point, her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, typed a quick message and put it away. "Sorry, just my brother checking in. He worries when I'm out late." No mention of other men. No casual name-dropping. No tests. "Sarah?" I said, surprising myself. "Can I tell you something?" "Of course. This is the most comfortable I've felt with someone in a long time. Maybe ever." She smiled, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. "I feel the same way. No pressure, no pretense. Just us." And that was exactly it. With Sarah, I didn't feel like I was auditioning for a role or competing for attention. I felt seen, valued, and at peace. Sarah and I had been dating for 4 months when Claire came back into my life. Our relationship had blossomed into something beautiful and steady. Sarah had met my family, I'd met hers, and we'd fallen into a comfortable rhythm of date nights, lazy Sundays, and late-night conversations about everything and nothing. I was happier than I'd been in years. Then one evening, as I was leaving work, I found Claire waiting by my car. "Hey, stranger," she said, her voice carrying that familiar playful tone. She looked stunning, as always, designer dress, perfect makeup, styled hair. But I felt nothing except mild surprise. "Claire, what are you doing here?" "I wanted to see you," she said, stepping closer. "It's been months, Daniel. I've been thinking about us, about how things ended." "Things ended because you wanted them to," I said evenly. "You chose the games over the relationship." She laughed, but it sounded forced. "Come on, I wasn't that bad. I just liked feeling desirable." "Is that such a crime?" She touched my arm. "I miss you. I miss what we had." "What did we have exactly?" I asked, gently removing her hand. Because from where I stood, It felt like I was constantly proving myself while you kept your options open. Her expression hardened slightly. I heard you're seeing someone. Some nurse. The way she said nurse carried a hint of dismissal. Her name is Sarah. And yes, we're together. Is it serious? Claire asked, her eyes searching mine. Very. She laughed again, this time with an edge. Already? Daniel, you always were too trusting. How do you know she's not playing the same games? Maybe she's just better at hiding it. She's not you, Claire, I said quietly. And I mean that as a compliment to her. That stung. I could see it in her face. So that's it? You're just done? You're really choosing her over me? I'm not choosing anyone over anyone, I explained patiently. I chose to walk away from games and drama. I chose to be with someone who doesn't need constant validation from strangers. Sarah and I have something real, built on honesty and respect, not jealousy and tests. Claire's facade cracked slightly. You know what? Fine. But don't come crying to me when she gets bored. When the excitement fades and you realize she's just ordinary. Sarah isn't ordinary, I said firmly. She's extraordinary in all the ways that actually matter. And I'm not going to argue with you about this, Claire. I hope you find what you're looking for. I really do. But it's not me. I got in my car and drove away, watching her diminish in my rearview mirror. I felt no satisfaction, no triumph, just relief that I'd made the right choice. When I got to Sarah's apartment that evening, I told her about the encounter. She listened quietly, then asked, How did it make you feel? Grateful, I said honestly. Grateful that I'm here with you instead of still trapped in that cycle. She cuddled closer to me on the couch. I don't understand people who play those kinds of games. Life's too short, and love's too precious to treat it like a competition. That night, I realized I was falling in love with Sarah. Not the desperate, anxious feeling I'd had with Claire, but something deeper and more certain. A foundation I could build a life on. 2 months later, I asked Sarah to move in with me. She said yes without hesitation, without games, without making me wonder if she had other options she was considering. Just a simple, joyful yes. Sarah and I had been living together for 8 months when I ran into an old mutual acquaintance of Claire's and mine, Tom, who worked in her building. We met at a networking event, and after some small talk, the conversation turned to Claire. Man, I have to say, I'm glad you got out when you did, Tom said, nursing his drink. What do you mean? I asked. Claire. She's been through, 4 or 5 guys since you two split. Each one lasts a few weeks, maybe a month, before they disappear. He shook his head. Word around the office is she's got a bit of a reputation now. I didn't want to gossip, but I couldn't help my curiosity. What kind of reputation? The kind where guys know she's entertaining multiple people at once. She's still doing that thing where she plays men against each other. He leaned in conspiratorially. But here's the thing, guys have caught on. They know she's not serious. So now the only ones who stick around are the ones who aren't serious either. They're just using her for arm candy at events or worse. The thought made me sad rather than vindicated. That's unfortunate. You dodged a bullet, Daniel. Everyone says so. And I heard you're engaged? Congratulations, man. He was jumping ahead. Sarah and I weren't engaged yet, though I'd been thinking about it seriously. But his words stayed with me. That night, I asked Sarah about something that had been on my mind. Do you think people who play games know they're pushing away the good ones? Sarah considered the question carefully. I think some people are so focused on being wanted that they forget to figure out who they actually want. They mistake attention for affection, pursuit for love. And by the time they realize the difference, the people who could have truly loved them have moved on. That's exactly it, I said. Claire was so focused on being chased that she never stopped to see who was worth being caught by. And you stopped chasing, Sarah said softly. That must have been really hard when you still had feelings. It was, I admitted, but it was also freeing. It taught me that real love shouldn't feel like a competition. It should feel like coming home. Sarah smiled. Like this. Exactly like this. A few weeks later, I was picking up dry cleaning when I literally bumped into Claire again. She was with a man I didn't recognize, tall, handsome, and checking his phone while she talked. "Daniel!" she exclaimed. "Wow, twice in 1 year. What are the odds?" "Hey, Claire. How are you?" "Great. Amazing, actually. This is Brad." "Brad. This is Daniel, an old friend." The way she said "old friend" erased our entire relationship. Brad barely looked up from his phone. "Hey!" Claire's smile seemed brittle. "Brad's taking me to the Maldives next month. Isn't that exciting?" "That sounds nice," I said politely. There was an awkward pause, and then Claire asked, "Are you still with that nurse?" "Sarah." "Yes, we're still together. Actually, I'm planning to propose soon." Something flickered across her face. Surprise, regret, maybe even pain. "Oh, that's great, Daniel. Really?" "Come on, babe," Brad interrupted. "We're going to be late for reservations." As they walked away, I heard Brad say, "Who was that guy?" "An ex." And Claire's response, "Nobody important." I should have felt hurt, but instead, I felt free. She still didn't understand that relationships aren't about importance or status. They're about connection, trust, and choosing each other every day. That evening, I stopped by a jewelry store on my way home. I proposed to Sarah on a Sunday morning in our apartment. No elaborate plan, no public spectacle. Just the two of us. Coffee brewing in the kitchen, morning light streaming through the windows, and a ring that I'd chosen because it reminded me of her. Elegant, genuine, and timeless. "Sarah," I said, taking her hand as we sat on our worn couch. "I don't need grand gestures or dramatic moments to know what I want. I want this. Every morning, every quiet evening, every ordinary Tuesday. I want to build a life with you. Will you marry me?" She cried happy tears and said yes. No games, no hesitation, no making me wonder. Just pure joy. We planned a simple wedding for the fall. My family adored Sarah. Her family had welcomed me as one of their own. Everything felt right in a way I'd never experienced before. 1 month before the wedding, I was at a coffee shop working on my laptop when I noticed Claire sitting alone at a corner table. She looked different, tired, maybe, or just less polished than usual. She was staring at her phone, and there was something defeated in her posture. Our eyes met, and I couldn't just ignore her. I walked over. "Claire, mind if I sit for a minute?" She looked surprised but gestured to the empty chair. "Sure." We sat in silence for a moment before she spoke. "I heard you're getting married. Congratulations." "Thank you." "To the nurse, Sarah, right?" "Yes." Another pause. Then, quietly, "I saw your engagement photos on Facebook. You both look really happy." "We are," I said simply. Claire stared into her coffee cup. "Can I ask you something? And will you be honest?" "Of course." "Was I really that bad? Was I really so awful that you couldn't fight for me even a little?" I took a breath, choosing my words carefully. "Claire, you weren't awful. You were exciting and confident and fun. But you turned love into a game and I didn't want to play. You needed men to chase you to feel valued, and I needed to be with someone who valued partnership over pursuit. I just wanted to know you cared," she said, her voice small. "I wanted to feel desired. But you already had someone who desired you, me. You just couldn't see it because you were too busy looking at everyone else." I leaned forward. "The truth is, all those men who chased you, most of them weren't serious. They weren't looking for a partner. They saw you as a challenge or a conquest. The ones who would have truly valued you, you pushed them away by making them compete." She was silent, and I could see tears forming in her eyes. "Claire, I hope you find what you're looking for. I really do. But you have to stop measuring your worth by how many people want you and start asking yourself who you actually want. And more importantly, who you want to be." She nodded, wiping her eyes. "She's lucky, Sarah. She's lucky to have someone who sees love the way you do." "I'm the lucky one," I said, "because she taught me that the right person doesn't make you chase. They meet you halfway and walk beside you." We said goodbye. A real goodbye this time, with closure and without bitterness. On my wedding day, surrounded by family and friends, I watched Sarah walk down the aisle. She wore a simple lace dress and carried wildflowers, and she smiled at me with such open, honest love that my chest felt tight. When we exchanged vows, I promised to choose her every day, to be her partner, not her competitor, to build a life based on trust and authenticity. And she promised the same. At the reception, my best friend gave a toast. "I've known Daniel for 15 years, he said, and I've never seen him this happy. Sarah didn't make him chase her, and he didn't make her prove herself. They just found each other anew. That's the kind of love worth celebrating." Later that night, as Sarah and I danced to our wedding song, she whispered, "Thank you for not playing games with my heart. Thank you for not making me." I whispered back. I never saw Claire again, but I heard through mutual acquaintances that she eventually moved to another city for a fresh start. I hoped she found her way to genuine connection, to someone who would love her without the performance. As for me, I learned the most valuable lesson of my life. The right person doesn't make you wonder where you stand. They don't test your devotion or measure your love by how hard you fight for scraps of their attention. The right person simply shows up, honestly and completely, ready to build something real. I stopped chasing, and I found everything I'd been looking for in someone who was done running. Sarah and I have been married for 2 years now. We have a small house, a rescue dog named Scout, and a life filled with quiet contentments and shared dreams. We have arguments sometimes and challenges and ordinary days that blend together. But we have trust. We have respect. We have partnership. And every single day, I'm grateful I walked away from the games and found the woman who never needed me to play them. Because in the end, the people worth having are the ones who don't make you chase after them. They're the ones who choose you just as clearly as you choose them, who meet you in the middle, who understand that love isn't a competition to be won but a commitment to be honored. Claire wanted to be chased. Sarah wanted to be loved. I chose the one who didn't play games, and I've never looked back.